All right, so here's another blog update. So we're about 12 miles south of Seattle. We're pretty close to SeaTac Airport. So this is like in between Seattle and Tacoma. And this is an area where these small houses right here, about 5 years ago, those houses would have sold for like $150,000. Those small little houses that need a little bit of work, they would have sold for about $150,000. Today they're like over $300,000. And basically like a nicer house in this area, like I'll show you a nicer house. Right up here there's like a much nicer house. 5 years ago this house would have been like 200. That would have been like 200. And now it's like probably 400. That's probably 400,000 today. So basically in just the last 5 years, the prices in this neighborhood have doubled. The house prices in this area have doubled in the last 5 years. And it's all because of the techies predominantly in Seattle. As more and more techies from San Francisco move to Seattle and downtown Seattle, they then push out other white-collar workers. So then the other white-collar workers come down here because there's a train from Seattle down to the airport. It takes like 40 minutes on the train. And then they come down here and they buy houses down here because they got priced out of Seattle. They can't afford Seattle because houses in Seattle are like, you know, $1 million. Condos in Seattle are like 500,000, so they can't afford Seattle prices, so they basically come down here and they think it's cheap because they get a small house for like 300, 400,000. This nice house here was like 600. That sold for 600, which is actually interesting because that's actually a very nice house. So what I noticed is the big houses, they're almost like fair market value, whereas the smaller houses, they're rip-off prices. Like you'll see a tiny little house for 300 and it's like 800 square feet, and then you'll see that big huge house that's maybe, you know, 3,000 square feet and it's like 600. So you actually get more value for the big houses, and the reason why is because the big houses have less demand, because most of the yuppies want to live in Seattle. So if they got 600,000 or if they got $1 million, they predominantly want to live in Seattle. But other yuppies that are priced out of Seattle and they only got like say 300,000 to buy a house, they'll come to this neighborhood because they can still get a house for like 300,000 in this neighborhood. So they'll come here, and we'll just go around the corner and I'll show you some houses that are like falling apart. So basically everything is the exact same. Hi, good. So basically everything's the same as it was 5 years ago, but the prices have doubled. The prices have doubled even though it's the same. And the thing is, Seattle's a very undesirable area because it rains here for about 5 months out of the year, 5-6 months out of the year, it rains. So from say late October all the way to say March, April, it just rains and rains and rains and rains every day. Almost every day it rains for like 5-6 months. And it's like 40 degrees and it rains, so it's terrible. It's like misery. You're outside, you're wet, you're damp, you're cold. It's like 40 degrees and it's raining. I've lived in Chicago, I've lived in Anchorage, Alaska, and I've lived in Seattle. And I'm telling you, Seattle winters are the worst. They are the worst because it's like 38 degrees and it's raining like every day, almost every day. Seattle winters are definitely the worst out of all three places. Anchorage and Chicago were significantly better for the winter, just saying. The other thing too is that you think, okay, you got mountains and you got wilderness by Seattle. Not really true. The mountains and wilderness are like 50 miles away. It takes like 2 to 3 hours to drive there. Yeah, there's beautiful hiking. Beautiful, beautiful hiking 3 hours away. Yeah, you can go to Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is 3 hours away. One way. One way to Mount Rainier is 3 hours. They have a ski resort by Mount Rainier called Crystal Mountain. It takes 3 hours one way to get there. So you want to go skiing for 6 hours, you're going to be in the car for 6 hours. You ski for 6 hours, you're in the car for 6 hours. So it's very undesirable. You go to Salt Lake City, you get to the ski resorts in like 45 minutes. You can get to epic, world-class ski resorts in 45 minutes. Anchorage, Alaska, they have a great ski resort like 30, 40 minutes from the city. So the ski resorts are much, much closer. And as a result, you can go skiing like 20 times a year because the ski resort's closed. You live here, you're only going to ski like once or twice because it takes so long to get there. You know, if you know you're in a car for 6 hours, you're only going to go skiing like once or twice. You're only going to go to Mount Rainier like once or twice a year to go hiking on Mount Rainier because it takes you 3 hours to get there one way, 3 hours back, 6 hours round trip in the car. Dangerous, dangerous roads. And as a result, you only go a few times a year. So you move here thinking you're going to have this great hiking lifestyle, this great skiing lifestyle. No, because it's 3 hours away. So you only do that a few times. So basically you're in the big giant, you know, concrete city 99% of the time. 99% of the time you're in the concrete city and you only go to those places like a few times a year. If you want to live in a place close to the hiking, close to the mountains, close to the ski resorts, you need to live in Anchorage or Salt Lake City area because it's like right next to the mountains. It's right next to the ski resorts. It's much, much better and it's much, much cheaper. That's the other thing. This area is just totally rip-off pricing. Prices are total rip-off. Seattle is like $1 million for a small house. This neighborhood, $300,000 to $400,000 for a small house. It's just a complete rip-off.